What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P, and we are back here once again for the NFC North report, week number 3, Chicago Bears edition. Now, we gonna go ahead and get right into it. The Chicago Bears put that thing down. They put the smack down on the Dallas Cowboys, 31-14. Chicago, basically, in a nutshell, looked like they could do whatever they wanted, and they did do whatever they wanted. And Osama bin Johnson, forever named Osama bin Johnson, did not abandon the run game like he has done previously. He has said, oh, the run game comes first, this, that, and the third thing. Is because he just kind of realized that if you're going to win in this league, you got to be able to run the football. If you can't run the football, you're going to put everything on your quarterback. And that quarterback that he has is not a guy that you want to put everything on. Remember, I keep talking about a hero ball. Now, to his credit, Caleb Williams did look very good. Pause. This game, and it has been, or it was the best game of his very young career. So let's see what his stats were. As before I segue away from that, Caleb Williams was 19 for 26, 298 yards and 4 touchdowns. Guess what, guys? Guess what? There is a quarterback in the NFC North that went over 200 yards. We talked about the Vikings not doing that. We talked about the Packers not doing that. Now we can talk about the Bears doing it. And then we could talk about the Lions doing it as well, because, it is what it is. But, yeah, he had a career game. He had almost 300 yards. He was just 2 yards shy of that. He threw 4 touchdowns. He didn't throw any interceptions. And I don't think he was sacked. Right? That is a stark turnaround from getting 52 points hung on you by the Detroit Lions, from getting beat at home versus the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy came in and beat y'all and then got benched the next game against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Atlanta Falcons looked like booty gas. Oh, my God. Michael Penix looked like, this week. So, it's a week-to-week type of situation. Any given Sunday, anybody can get beat by anybody. It is not an exclusive club where there are teams that play in the league and they cannot be beaten under any circumstances. No, it's not like that. So what happened in this game? The Cowboys cowboyed. Very early on in this game, I think it was the first drive of the game. They tried to hit CeeDee Lamb on like a handoff or a toss play. And Noah Sewell, shout out to the Sewell brothers, tackled him and rolled up on his ankle, and that was it. CeeDee Lamb's out for 6 weeks. He tried to come back in. He tried to, run. He did run a route, but he couldn't really do nothing with it at all. So he came right back out, and it's looking like a high ankle sprain. And wouldn't you know, he's going to be out for 6 weeks. Now, I recall saying to y'all last week that J.J. McCarthy was benched. And the reason that I told you he was benched is because, again, it was reported that he had a high ankle sprain. Not a regular ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain. And when you have a high ankle sprain, as CeeDee Lamb, you're going to be out for 6 weeks minimum, right? So CeeDee Lamb is going to be out for 6 weeks. He's probably going to go on the short-term IR, where he can stay on there for 12 weeks. 4 weeks. Sorry. You can stay on there for 4 weeks and then come back and do the thing all over again. But that's what I look for CeeDee Lamb to do. I don't know if they'll do that, but that's generally what teams do. So CeeDee Lamb was not a factor in this game at all. There was a tipped pass that turned into a tipped off of George Pickens' hands, and George Pickens plays for the Cowboys, right? So it bounced off of his hands and into the waiting arms of Tremaine Edmonds, right? Shout out to Tremaine Edmonds for his two interception game. He was Johnny on the spot. This all happened, Dak Prescott, everything, all of this happened with a Chicago Bears defense that was missing key pieces, right? They were without TJ Edwards. They were without obviously Jalen Johnson, who just went on IR this week. As I told you, they were out. They were without their other corner. What's his name? Kyler Gordon, the nickel corner. So they were without a lot of pieces, and yet poor ball security led to, actually it was a really good play by Tyreek Stevenson where he ran behind, I think it's Javonte Williams, punched it out, and the Chicago Bears recovered that, and then they turned around and scored. So, I mean, hey, that was a really good defensive play, and I'm not going to take away from it, even though I don't like Tyreek Stevenson, not just because he's a Bear, but because I think he's a punk. I said it. My man spit on JMO, right? From the sidelines. So it is what it is. However, like I said, the story of this game for the Chicago Bears was Caleb Williams. He was able to get almost 300 yards through the air without throwing an interception and also without taking a sack. So kudos to him for this performance. Let's see if he can keep it up next week. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys are bad. Okay, and they just got worse because CeeDee Lamb is going to be out for quite some time. They weren't able to muster anything, as you can see, but 14 points. So it is going to be a difficult task for the Dallas Cowboys to get off the schneid and to, I don't know, find some sort of path to victory. Like I said, week number 1 against the Eagles, they look pretty good, right? They look like just a couple of overthrows that could have been underthrown a little bit, and they could have been perfectly caught. So there were about 2 of those that we had. So, or not we, that the Cowboys had. So it was just a snowball effect. It was a snowball effect. The defense of the Dallas Cowboys was not good at all. They were giving up chunk yardage on the runs. Caleb Williams scrambled a couple of times. Was it Caleb Williams that I'm thinking? Anyway, the Cowboys were bad in this game. Okay, the Cowboys were bad. The Chicago Bears were a much better team than Chicago, than the Cowboys. Tripping over my words here, and that's basically what happened. But again, there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds by the Cowboys. Like I said, they did show fight against the Eagles in the first game of the season. I don't know who did they play in the second game of the season, but in this, they just didn't look like they showed up and were ready to play football. And the Bears were able to kind of beat them handedly. Did we learn too much? See, it's hard for me to say that I learned a whole lot about you when you played a bad opponent. When you play a bad opponent, but this was a game again with 2 bad teams. Chicago Bears at the time were 0-2, and same with the Green Bay Packers, not the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys, who are now 0-3, right? So it was a similar situation, and both of them needed to win. That didn't happen for the Baltimore Ravens, right? So the Baltimore Ravens fall to 1-2. Why am I saying the Baltimore? I told you I'm tripping over my words. The Dallas Cowboys fall to, was it 0-3? Hold on, let me. They are currently. They're 1-2. It's because they played the Giants, right? They played the Giants last week. And yeah, they had that shootout in that situation. Giants don't look good. The Giants don't look good. I'm not gonna say that. I know someone on Twitter was talking about, oh, they need to blow it up and they need to. Why? They don't need to blow it up. All they need to do is put in Jackson Dart. right? And we hope by the time that we play the green the New York Giants, um, that he's still not ready to go, and they've got nobody else that's ready to go, and all that. But again, I didn't learn a whole heck of a lot about the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are still 1-2. Um, if you can't sack Caleb Williams, who's been the most sacked quarterback since he came into the league, if you can't sack that guy, you didn't do well on defense. And when you're not doing well on defense and your offense is also not, they're kind of stuck in the mud, it's going to lead to a result like what you saw. There was going to be a celebration for the Chicago Bears. However, speaking of celebrations, that locker room celebration was full of corn. It was so corny in that locker room. Osama bin Johnson leading some sort of chant that was not met with the same energy at all. That was kind of ridiculous. And then it was just corny in general. It was just a very, very corny situation. I don't think that level of corn really allows any type of swag in. So again, the Chicago Bears are still the Chicago Bears. They are at the bottom of the division, along with the Minnesota Vikings. No. The Vikings, they got 2. So funny thing is, the Chicago Bears are the only team in the NFC North that just has 1 win. The Packers have 2, the Lions have 2, the Vikings have 2, and the Bears have 1. So even when some other teams were having a few early season struggles, I don't think that the Chicago Bears were able to capitalize at that time. So it's going to be tough sledding for them. This is still a very young team. You've still got a first-year head coach, who's your play caller, and you still have Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams, while they didn't try to put the governors on him today, he never ran for 50. It was never going to be anything like that. So we'll see what happens. Chicago Bears are still on the bottom. They're not at the top. They're still on the bottom, firmly in last place in the NFC North. But it is just week 3, and we will see how that works out. Anyway, we are going to be out of here. The Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, none of that stat or whatever you do. Make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace. What up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P here. Listen, if you want to continue keeping your Lions news pragmatic, if you want to keep getting the stats and not none of that static, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share and let everybody know what's going on around here. And turn on your notifications, because how else would you know that we're up in here keeping your Lions news pragmatic? Appreciate you once again, and we are out. Peace.